The galaxy had seen many strange things. From floating cities to creatures made of pure light, aliens had grown used to the weirdness of space, but nothing had ever shocked them quite like this. It started with a video. A Zarnathi scout ship was passing by a human colony world when it picked up unusual energy readings. The crew thought it might be illegal tech or maybe a hidden weapons test. They zoomed in and recorded what they saw. What they found wasn't a weapon. It was a tree. But not just any tree. It was a Deathworld tree. Even the name made most species shudder. These plants were known across the stars as one of the deadliest life forms ever discovered. They could grow teeth. They could move. Some versions even released spores that turned brains into jelly. No sane being kept one near their home, let alone inside it. But humans did. The footage showed a small house on the edge of a forest. Smoke came from the chimney. Birds flew around. The roof. Everything looked peaceful. Then the front door opened. A human male walked out. He wore simple clothes and carried a bag of soil. He went to a hole in the ground and gently placed something inside. It was a young Deathworld tree. He patted the dirt around it and stepped back. Behind him, a child ran outside. She laughed and jumped near the tree. The creature twitched slightly, then seemed to calm down. The alien crew watched in horror. They played the footage again. And again. There was no mistake. Humans were putting these deadly trees in their gardens. Worse yet, some were bringing them inside their homes. One file showed a living room with soft lights and warm colors. A couch sat in front of a TV. A cat napped on the floor, and in the corner stood a full-grown Deathworld tree. Its bark shimmered in the low light. Its roots curled under the carpet. One branch reached toward the ceiling like it was stretching. And people lived with it. Children slept in the same room. Old people sat beside it. Pets climbed on it. The Zarnathi crew sent the files back to their command center. Within hours, every major species in the Galactic Union had seen the videos. Panic followed. Meeting of the Galactic Council. The council chamber floated above the planet Virex 9. It was a place where leaders of hundreds of species met to talk, trade, and try not to kill each other. Today, everyone was talking about one thing: humans. More specifically, why they were keeping Deathworld trees in their houses. "I don't understand," said a Zalari diplomat. "We banned these trees centuries ago. They killed entire colonies." "They are not pets," said a Graken general. His voice rumbled like thunder. "They are weapons, biological war machines." "But the humans," said a Luthen scientist, adjusting her glasses. "They seem unharmed." She played the footage again. People smiled. Children played. Life went on normally, except for the tree in the corner. "It must be a trick," said the Graken. "A trap. Humans are clever liars." "No," said the Luthen. "This is real. We've checked the data. No deaths, no injuries, just normal life." Silence filled the chamber. Finally, a Zarnathi officer stood up. His name was Krell Votek. He was a xenoanthropologist. That meant he studied weird species and tried to understand them. He cleared his throat. "I request permission to investigate," he said. The room buzzed with noise. "You want to go to Earth?" someone asked. "To live among them?" "Yes," said Krell. "If we don't understand how they control the trees, we can't know if they're a threat." "And if you die?" asked the Graken. "Then at least we'll know what killed me," Krell said. The council voted. After much debate, they agreed. Krell Votek would go to Earth. He would learn the truth. Arrival on Earth was a blue-green planet covered in water and forests. It was noisy, messy, and full of life. Krell landed in secret. He wore a human disguise, a bald man in his 40s with plain clothes and dark glasses. He was assigned to a town called Maple Ridge. Population, 3,248. His cover job was as an intern for the local environmental agency. He was also given a temporary home with a family, a human family. He arrived at the house late in the afternoon. The sun was setting behind the hills. Birds chirped. Dogs barked somewhere nearby. The house was small, but neat. Flowers grew along the path. A swing swayed in the wind, and in the living room window, there it was, a Deathworld tree. Tall. Quiet. Watching. Krell stopped walking. His heart beat faster. The tree's leaves rustled without wind. It knew he was there. He took a deep breath and knocked on the door. It opened. A woman smiled. "Hello," she said. "You must be Krell. Come in." He stepped inside. The smell was warm, like bread and coffee. To his left was a kitchen. To his right, a couch and a TV. And in the far corner, the tree. It looked at him, not with eyes, with presence. Krell swallowed hard. He had studied dangerous species his whole life, but never had he felt so watched. The woman introduced herself as Lena. Her husband Daniel waved from the kitchen. Their son Evan peeked around the corner. "Is that the tree?" Krell asked slowly. Lena laughed. "Oh yeah," she said. "That's Luna. She's part of the family." Krell stared at the tree. It didn't move, but he could feel it, waiting, watching, alive. And suddenly, Krell realized he had no idea what he was getting into. Krell Votek stood in the middle of the living room, trying not to stare at the tree. He had studied alien life for most of his adult life. He had seen creatures that breathed fire, walked on ceilings, and even lived inside black holes. But none of them had ever made him feel so uncomfortable. The tree was tall. Its bark was dark and smooth like polished stone. Its leaves were long and thin, and they moved slightly even though there was no wind. It didn't have eyes, but Krell could feel it watching him. He shifted his weight from one foot to the other. "You okay?" asked Lena, the woman who had opened the door. Krell nodded quickly. "Yes," he said. Just, adjusting." Lena smiled. "Sure," she said. "Jet lag or something?" "Something like that," Krell replied. She led him through the house. Daniel, her husband, waved again from the kitchen. He was chopping vegetables with a sharp knife. Their son Evan watched from a small table nearby, eating an apple. "Make yourself at home," Lena said. "You'll be staying with us for a while, right?" "Yes," Krell said. "For my assignment." "Great," Lena said. "We've hosted interns before. You'll get used to us fast." Evan looked up from his apple. "Are you scared of Luna?" he asked. Krell blinked. "Luna. That's the tree," Evan said, pointing. "Oh," Krell said. "No, not at all. It was a lie." Settling in later that evening, Krell sat in the guest room. It was small, but clean. A bed, a desk, a window that looked out into the backyard, and a second window that looked directly into the living room, where the tree still stood. Krell watched it carefully. He had read about Deathworld trees during his training. They were dangerous. Some could grow spikes overnight. Others released spores that could make people hallucinate or go mad. But this one just stood there. Still, quiet, watching. Krell pulled out a small device from his pocket. It was a scanner. He turned it on and pointed it toward the tree. The screen flickered. "No known threats detected," the device said in a quiet voice. Krell frowned. That wasn't possible. He scanned again. Same result. He leaned closer to the window. The tree's leaves rustled again. Not because of wind, because of him. First contact. The next morning, Krell joined the family for breakfast. Eggs, toast, and some kind of orange drink that tasted sweet and fizzy. Evan sat across from him. "So," the boy said. "Do aliens eat eggs?" Krell blinked. "Some do," he said. "Others absorb nutrients through their skin." Evan looked impressed. "Cool." Daniel chuckled. "Ignore him," he said. "He asks weird questions all day long." Krell nodded, then looked at Lena. "May I ask," he said slowly, "why do you keep the tree inside your home?" Lena stopped sipping her coffee. "Well," she said, "she's part of the family." "But isn't she dangerous?" Krell asked. Daniel and Lena exchanged looks. Not if you respect her, Daniel said. And feed her, Lena added. Feed her what? Mostly sunlight, Daniel said. And water, sometimes blood. Krell almost dropped his glass. Blood? He asked. A little, Lena said. Like once a week. She likes it fresh. Krell stared at them. They seemed completely normal, like this was just another morning, with a deadly alien plant drinking blood in the next room. Watching and learning over the next few days, Krell observed the family closely. Every morning, Daniel would walk over to the tree and cut his finger lightly. He would let a drop of blood fall onto the base of the trunk. The tree would react. Its leaves would shimmer, its branches would move slightly, then it would settle down again. Evan told Krell that the tree liked music. Sometimes we play guitar. Near her, he said. She dances. Krell didn't see any dancing, but he did notice that when music played, the tree's leaves glowed faintly. At night, Krell watched the tree from his window. He saw things he couldn't explain. Sometimes, the tree's roots would gently push into the floorboards, searching for something. Other times, its branches would extend toward the ceiling as if reaching for the stars, and once late at night he saw it move. Just a little, enough to know it wasn't just decoration. Strange changes. As the days passed, Krell began to feel different. He slept better than he had in years. His headaches went away. Even his old scar on his arm started to heal faster. He checked himself in the mirror. His skin looked healthier. His eyes were clearer. It was like something in the air had changed. He suspected the tree. He ran more scans. No toxins, no radiation, only a low-frequency hum, barely detectable. He started taking notes. Tree appears to emit calming frequencies. May affect brain activity. Could improve health and mood. Not aggressive unless threatened. Forms bonds with humans. Responds to music, touch, and blood. Krell wrote it all down. He realized something strange. The tree wasn't just in the house. It was part of the house, of the family, of their lives. A new kind of fear. One night, Krell dreamed. In the dream, he was standing in a dark forest. The sky was red. The ground pulsed like a heartbeat. A voice called to him, not in words, in feelings. He woke up sweating. The tree was glowing, softly. Its leaves shimmered with light. It looked directly at him, not with eyes, with presence. Krell felt something deep inside. Not fear, not pain, something else. Connection. He stepped closer to the window. The tree reached out, just a little. A single branch stretched toward him. Krell hesitated. Then, very slowly, he reached back. Krell could not stop thinking about the tree. He had studied alien species his whole life. He had seen creatures that breathed fire, animals that lived inside stars, and plants that could talk through light. But never before had he felt like one was watching him back. The next morning, Krell sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee in his hand. It was warm and smelled strong. He took a slow sip and looked around. Daniel was reading the paper. Lena was making toast. Evan was humming to himself while drawing on a notebook. And in the corner of the room, the tree, Luna, was still there. Her leaves moved slightly. Not from wind, from something else. Something quiet, something deep. Krell watched her carefully. He noticed that when Evan hummed, Luna's leaves shimmered a little brighter. When Lena walked past, they rustled gently like a greeting. It was almost like the tree was listening, maybe even enjoying it. A different kind of bond later that day, Krell asked Daniel a question. "Do you talk to her?" he asked. Daniel looked up from his tools. "Talk to who?" "The tree." Daniel smiled. "Not with words," he said. "But yeah, we listen, and she listens too." Krell tilted his head. "How do you know she's listening?" Daniel shrugged. "You just do." He walked over to the tree and placed his hand gently on its bark. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, very slowly, the tree responded. Its leaves glowed softly. A low hum filled the air. Not loud, not scary, just a sound, like a song played by something, ancient and kind. Krell felt it in his chest. Warm, calm, safe. He blinked. That's not possible, he whispered. Daniel chuckled. Humans are full of surprises. The healing effect. Over the next few days, Krell began to notice strange changes. Evan had trouble sleeping. He would toss and turn all night. But one night he fell asleep near the tree and slept better than he had in weeks. Lena had been dealing with headaches for months. They came and went, sometimes bad enough to make her miss work, but after spending more time near the tree, the pain stopped. Daniel said his old knee injury felt less stiff. Even the family dog, a small golden retriever named Max, seemed to spend more time under the tree than anywhere else. Krell started keeping notes. Tree affects mood, helps with sleep, may reduce pain, calms emotions, improves health over time. He didn't understand how. There were no visible chemicals in the air, no energy waves he could detect, no obvious signs of medical help. And yet, everyone who spent time near the tree felt better. Curiosity turns to fear. Krell wanted answers. Late one night, he crept into the living room with his scanner in hand. He turned it on and pointed it at the tree. The screen flickered. No known threats detected, the device said quietly. Krell frowned. That couldn't be right. He scanned again. Same result. He stepped closer. The tree's leaves shifted toward him, watching, waiting. He reached out slowly, just as his fingers touched the bark. A pulse. Soft. Gentle. Like a heartbeat. Krell gasped and pulled his hand back. His heart pounded. He looked at his fingers. They were fine. No burns, no cuts. But something had touched him. Not physically, mentally. It was like the tree had reached into his thoughts and asked a question. Who are you? Why are you here? Do you mean harm? Krell backed away slowly. His breath was fast. His mind raced. He had come here to study humans, to learn if they were dangerous. But now he wasn't so sure. Because what he had just felt was not fear. It was understanding. A secret revealed. Next morning, Krell found Evan sitting alone in the living room. He was talking to the tree, not yelling, not playing, just talking. I had a dream last night, Evan said softly, about my grandpa. I woke up sad, but then I came here and Luna made me feel better. Krell stood in the doorway, silent. Evan looked up. Oh, hey, he said. Didn't hear you come in. What did you say? Krell asked. Just telling her about my dream, Evan said. She always listens. Krell stared at the tree. Does she ever answer? Evan thought for a moment. Not with words, he said. But sometimes I know things after I talk to her. Like what? Evan smiled. Things I didn't know before. Krell swallowed hard. He needed to tell someone. This wasn't just a plant. It wasn't just a pet. It was something more, something alive, something aware. And it was inside human homes. Millions of them. All across space. The report begins that night. Krell wrote his first real report. He sent it to his superiors on Virex 9. Subject: Initial findings on Deathworld trees among humans. Body: I have observed direct interaction between humans and the creature known as Luna. The tree is not hostile. It responds to music, touch, and blood. It appears to improve health, mood, and mental clarity. It forms bonds with humans. It may even share thoughts or feelings. This is not domestication. This is symbiosis. Humans are not afraid of these trees because they have learned to live with them. Perhaps even through them, we must learn more. This is not a threat. This is something new. Krell hit send. Then he sat back. He looked at the tree again. She was watching him. Still. Quiet. Alive. And, maybe, just maybe, friendly. Krell Votek had seen many strange things during his time as a xenoanthropologist. He had watched jellyfish-like aliens sing to the stars, walked through cities built on floating islands, and even eaten food that changed flavor with your mood. But nothing he had seen before compared to what he was about to witness now. It started with a simple question. He asked Daniel one morning while they were having coffee, "How did you first connect with the tree?" Daniel looked at him for a moment. Then he smiled. "You want to see it again?" he asked. Krell nodded. Daniel stood up. "Then come with me." A special moment. They went outside to the backyard. Luna, the Deathworld tree, was standing near the edge of the garden. Her leaves shimmered in the morning sun. Her roots were deep in the soil. She looked peaceful. Daniel walked up to her. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small knife. Krell tensed. Daniel saw this and laughed. "Relax," he said. "It's not for her. It's for me." He held the blade against his thumb. A quick cut. A single drop of blood fell onto the base of the tree. The reaction was immediate. Luna's leaves glowed. Her branches stretched toward the sky. A soft hum filled the air. It wasn't loud. It wasn't scary. It was like a song played by something, ancient and kind. Krell felt it in his chest, warm, calm, safe. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the glow faded. Luna settled back down. Daniel wiped his thumb and smiled. "That's how we bond with them," he said. Krell stared at him. "You cut yourself and give blood to a deadly alien plant?" Daniel chuckled. "Not just any plant," he said. A friend. Watching the process over the next few days, Krell observed more bonding moments. Evan did it too. Every week he would gently scratch his finger and let a drop fall onto Luna's bark. Each time the same response. Glowing leaves, humming, a brief stretching of branches. Even Lena did it. She told Krell that the ritual was passed down from older generations. "My grandmother used to say the trees choose us," she said one evening. "We don't own them. We live with them. We care for each other." Krell took notes. Bonding involves small amount of human blood. Triggers calm response in tree. Seems to deepen connection over time. Tree becomes protective of household may even warn of danger. He didn't understand how it worked. There were no visible changes in the tree after the ritual. No chemical reactions he could detect. But something happened. Something deeper than science. Something emotional. Curiosity becomes temptation. One night, Krell sat alone in his room. He looked out the window. Luna was glowing softly in the moonlight. He thought about what he had seen. Humans giving blood. Trees responding with warmth. Families living safely beside creatures once feared across the galaxy. He felt something strange. Not fear, not anger, curiosity. He wanted to try it. Just once. He picked up his scanner, pointed it at himself, then at the tree. He stepped outside quietly. The grass was cool under his bare feet. He walked up to Luna. She turned toward him, not with eyes, with presence. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small blade. His hand shook slightly. He made a tiny cut on his thumb, let one drop fall. Onto the tree. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a pulse. Soft. Gentle. Like a heartbeat. The leaves shimmered. The hum returned, and for the first time since arriving on Earth, Krell felt peace. Deep and true. He closed his eyes, and for a second he heard something, not in his ears, in his mind. Welcome. Sharing the discovery. The next morning, Krell sat with Daniel and Lena at the breakfast table. He didn't speak right away, just drank his coffee and watched them. Finally, he said, "I did it." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Did what?" "The ritual." Lena stopped eating. You gave blood to Luna? Krell nodded slowly. Yes. Daniel smiled. And you're still here? I feel different, Krell admitted. Calmer, lighter. Lena leaned forward. Then it worked. Daniel added, You're not the first alien to do it. Some species tried long ago. Most ran away, but a few stayed. What happened to them? They bonded, Lena said, and became part of the network. Krell frowned. Network? Daniel looked at her. Maybe it's time he knows more. The hidden truth later that day, Daniel showed Krell a map on his tablet. It showed hundreds of human colonies across space. Each one had a dot. Krell zoomed in. Every dot was a home. With a tree. Every human house with a tree is connected, Daniel said, through the roots, through the signals they send. Krell blinked. They communicate? Yes, Daniel said. Not with words, with feelings, with energy. They share memories, warn each other of danger. Lena added, Some people can even hear them. Not with ears, with thoughts. Krell swallowed hard. So the trees are listening, Daniel finished, and learning. Krell looked back at the screen. Hundreds of trees, millions of humans, all connected by blood, by trust, by bond, and now, by him. Back on Virex 9, the Galactic Council was not happy. Krell's report had caused a storm. His words were simple, but the meaning was huge. Humans are not afraid of Deathworld trees because they have learned to live with them. This is not domestication. This is symbiosis. But most aliens didn't see it as peaceful. They saw it as dangerous. The council chamber buzzed with voices. Some species shouted. Others whispered nervously. A Zalari diplomat stood up first. We warned all species about these trees, she said. They are not pets, they are weapons. A Graken general growled from his seat. If humans can control them, he said, then what else can they do? A Luthen scientist adjusted her glasses. We must act fast, she said. If these trees can communicate across space, then humans may be building something we don't understand. The room fell silent. Then the Zarnathi leader spoke. We must stop this before it spreads. A ban is issued within days. The Galactic Union passed an emergency order. All contact with human worlds must be limited. No trade of plant life between species. Bounty placed on any intact specimen of the Deathworld tree. The bounty was large. Enough to make even peaceful traders think twice. Some tried to sneak onto human colonies, hoping to steal a tree and sell it for riches. Most never returned. Those who did came back changed. Quiet, afraid. One trader was found floating in space, muttering about voices in the dark. Another showed up at a spaceport with no memory, and glowing, leaves under his skin. No one knew what happened to them, but everyone agreed on one thing. The trees were not normal. Fear spreads across the galaxy. Panic grew. Parents told their children not to look at videos of humans with trees. Schools stopped teaching about Earth culture. Even some scientists began to avoid studying human biology altogether. A message spread through alien networks. Do not visit Earth. Do not speak to humans. Do not touch the trees. But not everyone believed the warnings. Some thought it was just fear. Others saw opportunity. And a few saw something more. A chance. To learn. To change. To become. Krell receives new orders. Back on Earth, Krell sat in his room. He stared out the window at Luna. She was glowing again. Soft. Calm. Alive. His communicator buzzed. He opened it. A message appeared. From the Zarnathi command. Subject. Extraction order. You are to retrieve the Deathworld tree known as Luna. Return it to Virex 9 for study. Do not delay. Do not question. Execute mission immediately. Krell read the words slowly. Then again, his fingers hovered over the reply button. But he didn't press it. Instead, he closed the message and looked at the tree. She was watching him. Still. Quiet. Waiting. He felt something deep inside. Not fear. Not anger. Something else. loyalty, trust, maybe even love. He turned away from the screen and made a choice. The plan begins. That night, Krell met Daniel and Lena. In the kitchen, he told them everything. "The council wants me to take Luna," he said, "to study her, to cut her open." Daniel didn't say anything at first. He just stared at Krell. Finally, he asked, "Will you do it?" Krell shook his head. "No," he said. "I won't hurt her." Lena sighed with relief. Daniel smiled. "Good," he said, "because if they come for her, they'll find more than they expect." Evan walked into the room. He had been listening. "What happens if they send someone else?" he asked. Krell looked at him. "They will," he said. "And when they do," he looked at Luna, "she will be ready." A warning across space. Daniel pulled out a small device. It looked like a wooden box, but it pulsed with light. He pressed a button. A soft hum filled the air. Krell felt it. So did Luna. Her leaves shimmered. Then, slowly, she reached out. Not with branches, with something deeper, something unseen. A signal, sent through roots, through soil, through space, across the network. Millions of trees heard her, in homes, in schools, in hospitals, in quiet places where humans lived. And trees watched, and each one responded, with light, with sound, with power. Krell felt it too. A voice, not in words, in thoughts. "We are here. We are awake. We are watching, and we will protect our own." It started with a sound. Not loud, not sharp, just a low hum. At first, Krell thought it was coming from outside, maybe the wind or a passing car. But as he sat at the kitchen table drinking coffee, he realized the sound was coming from inside the house, from Luna. The tree's leaves shimmered in the soft morning light. Her branches twitched slightly like she was stretching after a long sleep. Krell watched her closely. She looked different, more alive, more aware. He turned to Daniel, who was reading the news on his tablet. "Do you hear that?" Krell asked. Daniel looked up. "Hear what?" "The humming." Daniel smiled. "Oh," he said. "That's just Luna waking up." Krell frowned. "Waking up?" Daniel nodded. "Trees go through cycles," he said. "Like humans. Sometimes they rest, sometimes they grow, and sometimes—" He paused. "They remember." Krell didn't ask what he meant, because just then, Luna moved. A sudden shift, her roots pushed deeper into the floor. Faint glow pulsed along her bark. Then came the wave. A ripple of energy passed through the room. Krell felt it in his chest. Lena dropped her coffee mug. Evan gasped. Even the dog Max ran out of the room with his tail between his legs. Outside, the lights flickered, streetlights blinked, cars stalled, and all across town people stopped what they were doing. They didn't know why. They just felt something. Something ancient. Something awake. In the living room, Luna stood tall. Her branches reached toward the ceiling. Her leaves glowed brighter than ever, and then she sent a message, not with words, with presence. Across the network. To every tree. We are here. We are awake. And we are listening. Confusion and fear. By noon, the whole town knew something had happened. People called each other on phones. They posted videos online. Some said they saw strange lights in the sky. Others said they heard a voice in their heads. One man said his headache vanished overnight. Another said his plants grew twice as fast. But not everyone was calm. Some were scared. Very scared. The local police showed up at the Harper house. Daniel opened the door. 2 officers stood outside. "Mr. Harper," one said. "We've received reports about some kind of energy pulse." Daniel smiled. "Just a growth spurt," he said. "Happens sometimes." The officer looked confused. "A growth spurt?" "Yeah. Daniel said. She's healthy, just got excited. The officer glanced behind him. I think you should let us take a look. Daniel shook his head. No need, he said. It's just Luna being Luna. The officer hesitated. Then he backed away. If anything else happens, he said, call. We will, Daniel said, closing the door. He turned around. Krell was standing there. You lied to them, Krell said. Daniel shrugged. Not really. Just didn't tell them everything. Krell stared at the tree. What did she do? Daniel walked over to Luna, touched her bark. She reached out, he said. To who? To the others. Krell swallowed hard. The other trees? Daniel nodded. They're not just in houses. They're in forests, in cities, in old ruins, hidden places. He looked at Krell, and now they're all awake. A message from the stars later that night. Krell sat alone in his room. He pulled out his scanner, pointed it at Luna. The screen flickered. Signal detected, the device said. Krell raised an eyebrow. What kind of signal? The scanner beeped. Unknown. Origin. Location. Deep space. Krell's heart pounded. He looked at the tree. You're talking to something out there, aren't you? Luna's leaves rustled, soft, gentle, like a yes. Krell stood up. He walked to the window, looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, something was calling, and Luna had answered. The truth begins to show. The next day, Krell confronted Daniel again. Need to know, he said. Who made these trees? Daniel looked at him for a long time. Then he sighed. Long ago, he said. There was a war. Krell listened carefully. Not between planets, Daniel continued, but between species, so old we don't even have names for them. And the trees. Daniel nodded. They were weapons, living bombs, designed to destroy entire worlds. Krell's eyes widened. Then how did they end up here? Daniel smiled sadly. Because someone found them. Not to use, to heal. He looked at Luna. Humans didn't build them. We just learned how to live with them. Krell took a deep breath. But if they were built as weapons, Daniel nodded. Then something must have made them stop. Krell looked at the tree, and suddenly, he wasn't sure if he was studying aliens anymore. He was part of something much bigger. Krell sat in the quiet kitchen, his hands wrapped around a warm cup of coffee. Outside, the sun had just begun to rise, casting soft, golden light through the window. But Krell wasn't looking at the sunrise. He was looking at Daniel, and waiting for answers. Daniel leaned back in his chair. He looked tired, like he had been carrying this secret for a long time. Finally, he spoke. Long ago, he said. Before humans even left Earth, there was a war. Krell listened closely. Not between countries, Daniel continued. Not even between planets. It was a war between ancient species, ones we've never met, maybe never will. He paused. The Deathworld trees were made during that war, not by accident, not as tools, but as weapons. Krell's eyes widened. Weapons? Daniel nodded. They could grow fast, adapt to any environment, and they could kill fast. Spores, toxins, physical attacks. They were designed to wipe out entire civilizations. Krell swallowed hard. Then how did they end up here? On Earth? Daniel smiled, but it was not a happy smile, because someone stopped them. A war that ended in peace. Daniel got up and walked over to a small wooden box on the shelf. He opened it carefully and pulled out a thin, glowing tablet. This, he said, handing it to Krell, is from the first human colony that found one of the trees. Krell turned the device on. Images appeared. Old ruins, broken ships, and in the middle of it all, a tree, tall, dark, still. The screen changed. Now it showed writing, not in English but in symbols that pulsed with light. Daniel pointed at one symbol. This word means surrender. Krell looked at him. The tree surrendered? Daniel shook his head. No, not the tree. The people who built it. Krell frowned. They gave up? Daniel nodded. After centuries of war, they saw what their weapons had become. They saw the destruction, and they chose to stop. Krell stared at the screen. So they shut down the trees? Daniel sighed. They tried. But once something is alive, you can't just turn it off. He tapped the screen again. New images came up. Humans, standing next to trees, touching them, feeding them blood, bonding with them. They didn't destroy the trees, Daniel said. They learned how to live with them. Krell looked at Luna, still standing quietly in the corner. And now, he whispered, they're waking up again. Daniel nodded. Yes. Something called them. And they answered. A new kind of power later. That day, Krell asked Lena a question. How do you know so much about this? Lena smiled. We keep records, she said. Every family with a tree has stories. Some are passed down through generations. She reached into a drawer and pulled out a notebook. This belonged to my great-grandmother, she said. She was one of the first humans to bond with a tree. Krell opened the book. Inside were drawings of stars, of ships, of trees reaching into space. One page caught his eye. It showed a human hand touching a tree. Next to it, a single line. They listen, and when they trust us, they protect us. Krell closed the book slowly. You don't just live with them, he said. You talk to them. Lena nodded. In our own way. Krell looked at the tree again. And what if they decide not to trust us anymore? Lena's face grew serious. They won't, she said. As long as we treat them right. Krell wasn't sure if he believed her, but deep down, he hoped she was right. The network awakens. That night, Krell couldn't sleep. He sat by the window and watched Luna glow softly in the moonlight. Then he felt it. Pulse. Not loud, not scary, just a quiet wave of energy. He knew what it was. Another signal, sent across the network. Millions of trees heard it, in houses, in forests, in hidden places across space. They were waking up, one by one. Krell looked at his scanner. The message was clear. Signal origin. Deep space. Source. Unknown. Frequency. Ancient. Krell's heart pounded. He turned to Luna. Who is calling you? He whispered. The tree didn't answer, but he felt something. A name. Not spoken. Not written. Just known. Voidborn. Krell's breath caught. He had read about them before. Legends, whispers, stories told in fear, the enemies of the ones who built the trees, and now, they were coming back. The message was clear. Something out there had called the trees, and now they were answering. Krell sat in front of his scanner, watching the data flow across the screen. He had sent a report back to the Zarnathi command, but he didn't expect them to understand what was happening. They saw danger. He saw something else. Awakening. Across the galaxy, the network of Deathworld trees pulsed with life. In hidden places, old roots stirred beneath forgotten ruins. In quiet homes, leaves glowed softly at night. And in deep space, something responded. Not with words. With power. A message from the Void. Krell replayed the signal over and over. It came from far beyond known space. Not from any star system or planet, just darkness. Empty space. But not empty. There was something out there. Something ancient. Something waiting. Lena walked into the room. She looked tired. You've been up all night, she said. Krell nodded. I need to know who's calling them. Lena looked at the screen. It doesn't matter who it is, she said. What matters is how the trees respond. Krell frowned. They're waking up. Lena sat down beside him. They've always been listening, she said. Waiting for this moment. Krell turned to her. What moment? Lena looked at Luna. The return of the ones who made them. Krell felt a chill. No, he whispered. Not the makers. Lena met his eyes. Then who? Krell swallowed hard. Their enemies. The Forgotten War. Daniel joined them later, that day. He brought tea and history. This war, he said, setting the cups down. It wasn't just about weapons. It was about control. Krell listened closely. The ones who built the trees, Daniel continued. They weren't the only ones fighting. There was another species. One we barely know anything about. He pulled out a tablet. The Voidborn. Krell, read the name slowly. They were never seen directly, Daniel said. Only through the destruction they left behind. Lena added. Entire planets gone silent. No bodies, no signs of battle, just emptiness. Krell looked at Luna, and, now they're calling back, Daniel nodded. We think so. Krell stood up. If the trees are responding, Daniel finished the sentence, then they remember the war. Krell paced the room. These trees were weapons, he said. Designed to destroy. If they remember their purpose. Lena stood up. They won't be used again. Krell looked at her. You don't know that. Lena stepped closer. Yes, I do. She placed her hand on Luna's bark. She trusts us. All of them do. Krell wanted to believe her. But he had seen what these trees could do, and if the Voidborn returned, humans wouldn't be the only ones in danger. Across the galaxy back on Virex 9, the Galactic Council was in chaos. Reports came in from every corner of space. Trees were glowing. Roots were moving. Signals were being sent. Some species thought it was a trap. Others feared it was the start of an invasion. A Zalari diplomat stood in the council chamber. We must act now, she said. Before it's too late. A Graken general growled. We should destroy the trees before they destroy us. Oh, Luthen scientist shook her head. We don't even understand them, she said. How can we fight something we don't know? The debate raged on. No one knew what was coming, except Krell and the humans. The choice that night, Krell sat alone in his room. His communicator buzzed. Another message from the Zarnathi command. Subject, final warning, return to base immediately. Do not trust the humans. Do not trust the trees. You are ordered to extract the specimen. Krell stared at the screen. Then he closed the message. He looked at Luna. Her leaves shimmered. She reached out, not with branches, but with thoughts. A question. Do you stay? Krell took a deep breath. Yes, he whispered. I stay. The first step, the next morning, Krell made a decision. He would not return to Virex 9. He would not betray Luna. Instead, he would help. He asked Daniel for access to the human records. All of them, he said. Every story. Every bond. Every signal. Daniel smiled. You're with us now. Krell nodded. I want to learn. Daniel handed him a small wooden box. Inside was a device that pulsed with light. This will connect you to the network, he said. If you're ready. Krell looked at it, then at Luna. He touched the device and felt something. A voice, not in words. In presence. Welcome. Krell smiled. For the first time since arriving on Earth, he felt like he belonged.